On the night of September 1, 1969, the quiet towns of Berkshire County, Massachusetts, were suddenly transformed into the stage for one of America's strangest encounters. Bright, silent lights appeared in the sky above barns and backyards, hovering as if frozen in place. Families on late-night drives were engulfed in beams so brilliant they felt lifted off the road. Some locals still whisper that they were taken aboard a craft. For decades, residents have called it Britain's Roswell, a mysterious event that remains unsolved more than half a century later. Berkshire County sits among rolling hills and lakes. In the 1960s it was a place of farmers' fields and small churches. A landscape that rarely saw the spotlight of national media. That summer's night was warm, the sky clear. Children were returning from the local fair. Couples were driving home along country lanes lined with stone walls and tall maples. No one could have predicted that a few minutes after 9 o'clock, multiple witnesses would describe the same impossible scene, glowing discs hovering without sound, moving in ways no human aircraft could. Calls poured into the police station in Great Barrington. "There's something over the lake," one caller stammered. "It's just sitting there, bright as day." Officers responded. They saw nothing but darkness by the time they arrived. Yet the stories kept spreading. And soon a local radio station was running updates, fanning curiosity and fear in equal measure. The most vivid accounts came from ordinary families. One boy recalled being in the back seat of his mother's station wagon as they drove near Route 7. Suddenly, the car was bathed in a blinding white light. He felt a strange pressure in his ears, as if they were ascending rapidly in an airplane. Then came the sensation of weightlessness, the boy's feet lifted off the floor. He described looking out the window and seeing the treetops below them, as if the car itself had left the ground. Moments later, they were back on the road. The boy screamed. His mother slammed the brakes, heart pounding. Everything was as it had been, except for the time on the dashboard clock, which appeared to have skipped forward several minutes. A family parked near an old farm pond saw 3 glowing orbs drifting over the water. They were arranged in a triangle, each orb pulsing with a golden hue. At first the objects hovered as if curious, casting reflections on the still surface. Then, without any visible acceleration, they shot off toward the horizon and were gone. The witnesses all said the same thing: no sound, no wind, no wake. They stood by the water for a long time afterward, their skin tingling, unable to decide whether they had seen something mechanical or otherworldly. Perhaps the most chilling account came from a group of children who were playing hide-and-seek in a meadow behind their homes. They saw a large disk slowly descending between 2 oak trees. One child later said he felt compelled to approach, even though he was terrified. The next thing he remembered was being in a bright, circular room, unable to move. Strange beings stood around him, communicating not with words but with images projected directly into his mind: stars, galaxies, planets, a feeling that the universe was vast and inhabited. He said the experience lasted only a few minutes, yet when he looked down at his watch later, nearly an hour had passed. When pressed by skeptics, he never changed his story. As an adult, he still insists that night was real and that he has spent his life searching the skies ever since. But what exactly took place in Berkshire that evening? Was it a case of mass hysteria spurred by Cold War tensions and a fascination with the space race? Or was there truly something in those skies that defied earthly explanation? The police records are sparse. Officers noted the calls and logged the approximate times. They dispatched a few cars. Their notes mention nothing out of the ordinary when they reached the reported locations. Local newspapers the next day wrote about strange lights and quoted residents shaking their heads. Scientists who were asked to comment suggested meteor activity. Late summer often brings meteor showers, and bright meteors can appear to hover or split into several pieces. Perhaps what people saw were meteors burning up in the atmosphere, reflected in lakes, and misinterpreted in the heat of the moment. Others have pointed to the U.S. military. In 1969, the United States was heavily testing new technologies in response to global tensions. Prototype aircraft, including helicopters with advanced quiet rotors and early unmanned drones, were being flown at remote locations. Berkshire County is not far from air bases where such experiments could have been staged. Could the lights have been silent helicopters or tethered balloons, and could the feelings of weightlessness have come from the sudden tilting or banking of the witnesses' own vehicles in surprise? The U.S. Air Force has never confirmed any operations in Berkshire that night, but the secrecy of military tests makes such admissions unlikely. There is, of course, a third possibility, that the witnesses really did experience something not of this world. The consistency among the stories is striking: the bright lights, the lack of sound, the sudden sense of being lifted, the missing time. Those are themes echoed in other UFO reports across the globe. The children's story of being on a craft and seeing images of stars parallels accounts from places as far apart as Brazil and New Mexico. Could it be that Berkshire County was visited that night by beings studying us as curiously as we would study them? Those who believe argue that it is statistically improbable that so many unrelated people would fabricate identical details without having seen something real. Why does the Berkshire UFO incident continue to captivate minds more than 50 years later? Part of the answer lies in the witnesses themselves. They were not fringe believers or thrill seekers, they were teachers, shopkeepers, parents. They have held on to their accounts despite decades of ridicule from skeptics. When Netflix revisited the case in its Unsolved Mysteries reboot in 2020, a new generation encountered the story and once again debated its meaning. Contemporary podcasts and documentaries re-examined old police reports and interviewed aging witnesses, discovering that the memories were as vivid as ever. The nickname Britain's Roswell emerged because, like the famous crash in New Mexico, the Berkshire case involves multiple witnesses, alleged government secrecy, and cultural resonance that refuses to fade. Skeptics point out that memory is fallible. Over time, stories can change, details can be exaggerated, and separate accounts can influence one another. Perhaps the Berkshire incident is an example of such narrative blending, shaped by the science fiction of its day and reinforced through retellings. Yet the fact remains that on that late summer night, dozens of people across a handful of rural towns reported seeing lights that did not behave like anything they had ever seen. They were moved to call the police, to wake their neighbors, to watch the sky in awe and fear. Even if there were perfectly mundane explanations, meteors and misperceptions, the emotional impact was profound and lasting. The question lingers: what really happened over Berkshire on September 1, 1969? Was it a meteor show that caught just the right angle, a top-secret military test never acknowledged, or a genuine brush with something beyond our planet? The police notes, the newspaper clippings, the breathless radio reports, and the testimonies of aging witnesses all paint a picture that is tantalizing yet incomplete. Perhaps the truth lies not in any one explanation but in the shared wonder and unease that the night created. As long as those feelings persist, the mystery of Britain's Roswell will endure. Thank you for watching. Subscribe to Unknown Realities for more unexplained mysteries.